recording this is probably uh, a bit tricky or iffy. So, what do you know about the Megan Thee Stallion situation?
Basically, the impression that I got is that like first she came out like at the time she said that she was like cut by broken glass or something at the time of the whole incident,
Right.
and they charged Tory Lanez with like criminal possession of a weapon or something.
Hmm.
I mean, no, whatever. Like he like I'm not a big fan of guns, but like honest to God, like I'm actually bothered a lot less. I'm not that bothered by like rappers carrying guns because realistically it's a legitimate fear that like if someone tries to rob them, the police ain't gonna come.
Hmm.
Like, so that doesn't bother me. Like, that doesn't make me think like any less of Tory to have had a gun in the car, whatever.
Right.
Like, but at the same, so Megan says that she has glass in her feet. 2 days, like what I know of it, like 2 days later, then she comes out and says, I got shot. Like,
Hmm.
I didn't really have glass in my foot. Like, whatever. Like, somebody did this with the intent to hurt me, blah, 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 blah.
Hmm.
And like, from what I could gather at that point, people were kind of like reading between the lines that it was him, that it was Tory
Right.
that shot her, but she hadn't said it flat out.
Right.
Meanwhile, like, he's like, after like months of like being all over Instagram,
Hmm.
he's radio silent
Okay.
and like, and he's not saying nothing about it. He's not saying nothing about it. Yada yada. Da, 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 da. And then, but then a month later, I had seen like she goes like and does this whole Instagram live where she's like, that blankety blank Tory, he shot me. He got me publicist lying. Blah, 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 whatever.
Yeah.
Like, and at that point, I'm kind of like, okay, this is kind of sounding a little bit fishy because like with those, like in that situation it's like I feel like the general public, like there's no way in hell to figure out who to believe in that situation unless you were actually standing right there,
Yeah.
because honestly, like, well, it's like, yes, like I do believe like that I do believe that black women should be protected. I also believe that black men should be protected.
Right.
And it's like, as Sam said before, like I do tend to have kind of like the affinity for like for protecting black men.
Hmm.
So I like honestly I had always kind of tended towards being more on the side of Tory.
Right.
And
Did you see the video he came out with recently?
I did like I think like I don't know, like strikes me as and it's like I don't want to be like prejudiced or anything, but she kind of strikes me as like, and I don't want to jump to conclusions, and I'm going to preface this right now by saying I don't believe this actually
Hmm.
necessarily happened,
Hmm.
but I feel like I would be less surprised if I had heard that like she was getting sassy with him first, not that it would give if he shot, not that it's an excuse to shoot her,
Hmm.
but like but like what I had heard was that like supposedly like some stupid he said she said crap about like they were dating and she thought they were exclusive and he didn't, and she was going through his phone, which I personally believe is like, and felt a type of way because he was talking to other girls at this party, which like I mean, I am wary of that because to me, when a girl goes through like their husband or boyfriend's phone, like to me, that's a form of psychological abuse. It's just like a form of like
Vice versa.
possessiveness.
Or vice versa. Or vice versa, right?
Or vice versa, correct.
Yeah.
Either way, like somebody going through somebody's phone when you're in an intimate relationship is to me like considered psychological abuse.
Mm-hmm.
So if she was really being like psychologically abusive to him and he just couldn't take it anymore and snapped, like I wouldn't like it's still not right, but I would kind of see where both sides were coming from in that. But anyways, what you were getting at, like the video, you're referring to like when he went on Instagram and basically said that Rock Nation threatened him to be quiet.
Yeah, yeah, and then he proceeded to go through basically the everything that happened that night. Like he went through like the whole story, the whole scenario.
When I heard the whole thing, like, but basically, like, he never, like I feel like he told everything that he could without, like, incriminating himself or anybody else.
Well, yeah, the or anyone else is the main part. So if you put two and two together, it seems like what happened is that her friend, who I guess is a woman, according to.
I think she and her friend got in an argument over him. The friend tried to shoot her. He was trying to pull the gun out of her hand, and then she turned around and saw him with the gun in her hand, assumed that like he was the one that shot her.
Yeah. Basically, that's that's the whole story. He tells it without, like you said, incriminating the other person, but he kept hinting that the truth will come out in the trial. And he stops himself and he says, I'm not going to say certain things because I'm not trying to incriminate, anyone else. But, just based on the fact that the way she describes it, she wasn't, turned around while we were struggling with the weapon and blah, blah, blah. I mean, I think he basically admits it might have been his weapon, but she was the one who, like, pulled it out, the other woman.
That's the impression I got because, like, and it, because what I was reading too was, like, this whole thing about, like, how it was a big deal that, like, Megan and, like, the other woman had, like, been best friends for years and years and years, and they were no longer speaking to each other after that incident. And then, like, I guess, like, some whole thing came out of, like, the best friend was trying to, like, wasn't taking responsibility or something, was trying to frame it on him.
Now, the part that I don't understand is the glass versus bullets thing.
Shrapnel. Like, but I think that she didn't get actually, like, she did not get hit by a bullet point blank in her foot.
Right.
No way in heck that happened, and she would be on Saturday Night Live in heels 2 months later. Like, physiologically, the body does not work that way.
Plus, they said no bones or
Exactly, no bones or tendons. Like,
so what do you think happened to her? Like, if you think she wasn't really shot, what happened?
I think yeah, there were shots fired. That's not disputable, I don't think. But I think what happened is that the weapon accidentally went off while he was trying to pull the weapon away from the friend.
Right.
And it ricocheted and some shrapnel got in her foot. That's what I think.
Okay.
Like, that's my theory.
But that's not the story that she's...
It's not the story that she's telling, but I think that her management is trying to get her to push the narrative that he shot her.
Right.
But it's like she's like filling in blanks that she doesn't have, right? Because she was turned around while this was happening. So the story, the holes he's poking in her story was, how does she know, like,
right,
in the back of her foot, like she was turned around and what
Hmm.
have you. And so what? Like they mistaked glass for shrapnel, or vice versa, or something like
Yeah.
those. Are those things similar?
I mean, yeah, like those things are pretty similar, or like it could have even been a case where like where the bullet like hit a window and broken glass from the window,
Wondering about that. Yeah,
something like that.
I was wondering about that. Um, yeah, yeah, that's an interesting story because before we knew what happened, people were already, saying
Him,
about him, like, and like people taking sides, and like the hatred of like black women and stuff like that. And it all becomes, before people really know what the story is, it all becomes like very like heated and emotional and like, you know political before anyone knows what it is. And like their whole code of silence thing doesn't help because he's not telling his side of the story until he gets surprised that another story has been told, and now he's got to like play catch up.
although I think that there's some truth to what was being, I think that there's some truth to like the narrative, to what he said also in his live, that like when it came out, that like when what happened came out and like in the news, TMZ, whatever,
Yeah,
like he was gonna go on and speak on it like immediately because he felt like he owed that to his fans.
and Rock Nation told him not to.
And Rock Nation told him not to. Now Rock Nation manages Megan, and
Yeah,
but he's independent now.
yeah,
He got his master's back, and so he thinks that like, and I am honestly like, I'm not a tinfoil hat person normally, but knowing what I know about the industry, like, wouldn't surprise me if they were trying to like throw him under the bus for going independent.
well, yeah, that's I dismiss anything like that. I like to stick to the facts. I mean, the facts are they were involved in something violent, and Rock Nation likes to make money, and they don't want their artist looking besmirched or anything like that. And he says that they told him not to say anything, and the way that they said it was kind of shady. Like, what
It
did
was
they
kind
say?
of threatening.
Yeah, it would be in your best interest not to speak on the subject. Now people are like, wait a minute, like they haven't even said anything like it would be in your best interest not to lie, or your best interest not to say this or that, but they're just saying it would be in your best interest not to speak about it at all. That kind of implies that whatever he's going to say is going to make your side look bad, right? It
Mm-hmm.
implies something a little sinister, or like that your side has some culpability or something, right? Because you're not saying, hey, you better not go spreading any lies. You're like, don't even speak on it. So I don't know, whatever. That's conjecture. I don't about the other stuff about the masters. That's neither here nor there. I mean, money buys masters, and people get paid or whatever. So
Well,
that
I mean, yeah, I mean that's, yes, that's conjecture. Although, like Rock Nation, maybe, like you just said, they want to make money and they don't want their artists to look bad, and they may have figured like he doesn't have like the muscle on his side to back him up now that he's independent. You know what I mean?
yeah, I'll only speak on pure facts. I don't get into any of the masters um, you know conjecture stuff. That's like people buy and sell masters every day. I mean, you either make money or you make more money in this industry. At the end of the day, it's the suits who make all the money. So
But
that
that's what I'm saying is that like, and again, like it's just a suspicion, but like he doesn't have suits on his son
yeah.
at this
Well,
point.
if he's independent, and he can sell as many records as he's been selling, then he can start making a lot more money than he was making before.
Well, that's exactly like because he didn't re-sign with Interscope. Like after he made his last album that he was contracted to sell with Interscope,
Right.
and then his most recent album he released indie, like he released under his own
Mhm.
label that he started.
Yeah.
But I think the bottom line of it is that like I mean, maybe like whether he's independent is neither here nor there. So much though is the fact that like Rock Nation didn't want her to look bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think like it's interesting. It brings up a whole interesting point because, to tell the truth, I don't know if you remember like the conversation that I got into a while back where there was where somebody on the group chat, like they didn't think that, like when I tried to say like you should listen to like both sides of the story,
Mhm.
that person brought up one of my situations and said, well, why should I believe you?
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm talking about, Sam? I'll tell you, I don't want to say it like, I don't want to talk about other people out loud.
Okay. Okay.
I'll put it in the chat box.
Sure.
But but
Oh, okay.
you know which situation I'm talking about?
Yes.
But the reason why that whole discussion started was because I had just been in a different conversation with somebody else, like totally outside the group, like a different friend who was saying that like kind of who was saying that something was sitting fishy with them about this story, about this whole story, like the Megan Thee Stallion story.
Yeah. Yep.
Like that's what precipitated that other conversation, is that I was kind of like, I thought something was fishy from the get-go. And I kind of was like, and I mean, I was not being very sensitive about it, but I was kind of joking about like how like I sometimes am not the first person to say like, believe the woman, no questions asked.
Right.
Or you've got to hear both sides of the story, but that's the reason why I said that person took it to mean like, so you're saying you don't believe women? Or
Right.
there were missed signals there. Like, but that's why I tend to be more of like at times like, oh, like a trust but verify, like, because again, like this, like I think I brought up in that conversation, like the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp situation.
Yeah,
like,
I think trust but verify is a good policy to have.
Like Johnny Depp got,
Yeah.
like Johnny Depp like got royally like.
Yeah.
Johnny Depp got screwed in that. Like,
yep.
He lost jobs, like, and I mean, he's Johnny Depp, so it's not like he was like losing the money he needed to live, but he lost jobs, he got canceled, he lost credibility because Amber Heard lied on him.
Yep. And even though it's been established that she lied, like the stigma is still following him around.
And I felt like at that time, like when the whole Megan Thee Stallion thing, like I was a little annoyed with like everybody automatically jumping to cancel, like even like the mainstream media jumping to cancel Tory Lanez because they're like, well, because I feel like, well, hold on, wait a minute, like, shouldn't we hear from both sides first? You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, no, it makes it like, listen, I didn't even listen to either of these artists, and I got swept up in the whole the whole horror of like some woman being shot by some man that she was seeing or whatever. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know what was going on, but it sounded, the story was being spun in a way that sounded really bad, and he wasn't speaking up, and it was just like, you know, it was this whole like men are men are like going against Megan the Stallion, and just like, it was just being spun in a way that made it look bad. The amazing thing about social media is you could speak directly to your audience, and unless he's like some kind of master manipulator that's tricked all of us, he was very convincing in his story and seemed very frustrated and exasperated about
Well, that's the thing
what.
too. Is that most of the things that, and I mean, I'll preface this too with my own like personal bias, is that before the whole incident, I did/do listen to his music, but not hers.
Mhm.
So I may have been a little biased to poke holes in her story to begin with.
Right.
But like, although I just didn't really like care about her either way.
Yeah.
Megan the Stallion drives poor Misha nuts. But
And I wouldn't know Tory Lanez if he fell on my
if
head.
he bit you in the ass.
Yeah. So
But I think that like, but I think like what it is just like, that's what gets me so much, like, about that kind of thing gets me so much about cancel culture, because I feel like cancel culture, it's like, it's one thing if it's just like, social media or like individual people deciding to boycott like a certain artist.
Mhm.
But like, I mean, and honestly, I probably won't, because I don't really believe in cancel culture. But I feel like that, like, I would be within my rights to say, like, I'm not going to listen to Lil Wayne anymore for supporting Trump. I'm probably not going to say that because I do like his music. But
Well, the other thing is like, I, I don't know. Everything just seems like it's so. I, I didn't want to use a bad pun, but I was gonna say everything like just wanes like so quickly. Um,
but I'm
like how long is this gonna go on? Like, is this a hill that Wayne is gonna die on? And like, do I don't know. Like, just who cares what Wayne's political?
that's what my students said.
yeah, I mean,
That's kind of what my students said.
you know what I mean? Like, well, here's the thing though. If you believe that he's supporting someone who is potentially like a fascist white supremacist dictator who wants to like ethnically cleanse the country, then you may feel and the jury's still out on that. So it's possible that he is, and you may still want to, so you may still feel justified in saying that anyone who supports him is canceled. But it's a difference between like supporting someone politically and your own personal actions.
I mean, yes, but I'm sorry I didn't quite finish the point that I was making. No, and you didn't mean to. No, don't feel bad. But the thing is, I just wanted to stop you before we devolved into a totally different like rabbit hole again.
Okay.
But like, because honestly, at this point, like, I was just using that as an example. Like, I think that's why he's supporting Trump is like, or whatever, or talking about his support for rappers supporting Trump is like kind of a dead horse topic that could lead us
in a slightly different direction, but all right.
But the point that I was gonna make is that it's one thing for people to personally choose not to listen to an artist that doesn't, or support an artist that doesn't resonate with their own personal values.
Yeah.
However, and maybe we're making the same point, I don't know. But like, however, I think it's crossing a line when the media cancels, when pop culture media decides who gets canceled before hearing both sides of the story.
Well, honestly, I'm canceling everyone who didn't support Nader, which is going to be most people. So everyone's canceled. Everyone who didn't support Nader.
All right, I'll see you. I'll see you never. I couldn't vote in that election.
Yeah. All right. I would get canceled too, I suppose. I really like Ralph Nader. I always have. But as a teenager, I was so enamored with Al Gore that when I had the opportunity to vote for him and that was the first time I got to vote, I couldn't pass it up.
Yeah, no doubt.
Well, Misha is still bitter that he missed being able to vote in that election by 3 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear that.
I was only 16, so I couldn't vote. Like, and a lot of what at the time that I was hearing was like, whether it's a fallacy or not, I don't know, because I don't feel like doing math. But the whole like Nader takes votes away from Gore thing and causes Bush to win.
I think the amount of votes that he took away from Gore were negligible. I mean, he did take a few votes away, but honestly, Gore had that in the bag. He lost his home state. Like he should have. Yeah, I mean, and with much love and respect to Al Gore.
On the other hand, when was the last time a Democrat won Tennessee? Although didn't Bill Clinton?
I know. Well, and also he was coming off a 2-term incumbent president who was very popular, even though he was polarizing. Like it should not have been. Yeah, it shouldn't have come down to like swing states the way it did.
Yeah. Well, easier to blame, a progressive guy who only gets a sliver of the vote than to
exactly
your own party or the party you're running against.
I mean, I'm going to put it out there. I don't believe Jill Stein caused Trump.
No.
I think that's ludicrous.
No, I don't think so either. No, definitely not. Jill Stein doesn't have anywhere near the traction or popularity that Ralph Nader does. So I do not at all believe that she made a serious dent in that.
Although I do find it hilarious that when, I think it was the New York Times posted the voting stats 4 years ago of every precinct in the city. And I do find it kind of amusing that my election precinct had more people vote for Stein than for Trump. Like there was something like it was like 46,000 votes for Hillary and 13 votes for Trump.
Yeah, I know people I have people I'm close to in the South. I know I'm very close with them, and I know one of them voted for Gary Johnson.
South Slope?
Yeah, sorry, the South, like I'm
the South of the country.
Correct.
Okay.
I don't want to mention any names, but yeah, the people who I'm very close to, I know one of them voted for Gary Johnson, and then South Slope. That's funny though. Yeah, and the other one, I'm not going to tell that story. I've told that story privately. I won't tell it in public.
Yeah, you don't embarrass that person.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to mention their names, but yeah.
But that's a distinctive story.
Yeah, it's good story.
But
he got shamed into not voting for Trump. So
I mean, to be honest, I think that I think that some of my relatives left it they either voted for Gary Johnson or left it blank because my relatives are they're Kasich Republicans, not Trump Republicans.
Right.
If that makes any sense.
It makes a lot of sense. I mean,
they're the kind of people who they don't they're conservative, they're pro-life, they're religious, but they don't say, for example, believe COVID is a hoax and that and still believe in wearing masks and taking precautions and doing sensible things.
Yeah, they're not gonna vote for a jerk. Like they're they're a member of a different party, but they're not gonna vote for someone who's gonna like throw the whole country away.
Although it's really, well, it's interesting too, because like I have a cousin who, when he was like a teenager and in college, was real big on wanting to be like a conservative politician, and was like, when he was in college, he went to CPAC and everything. Then 4 years ago, about a month before the election in 2016, he and his wife came, they live in Indianapolis. They came to visit New York because like he had a business trip here. My cousin had a business trip here, and he and his wife came here. And my brother and I go to meet up with them for lunch. And my brother and I, before we go in, we look at each other and we're like, because that was like in the middle of the 2016 election, we look at each other and we're like, we're just no politics. But then my cousin brought it up as like, oh yeah, we're not voting for that crazy guy. We're voting for Hillary. I don't even remember how it came up, but it turned out that like moving to Indianapolis had totally like soured him on the Republican Party in general, because he was so angry at the way that Mike Pence treated gay people.
Mm.
Well, and I think his wife had something to do with it, because she's pretty progressive. She's known to like repost things from AOC on her Facebook and stuff.
All right, folks, I think I'm going to get going. I'm getting kind of tired.
All right.
Yeah, but we had some good stuff on there. I'll try to piece it together in a way that works.
I apologize for hijacking the whole thing.
No, it's all good. Let me know if folks still want to do like a script maybe sometime this weekend or something.
I'm actually okay. I'm not available this weekend, but one night next week if you want to do something, absolutely. Well, Tuesday's a holiday, nobody's going into work, so if we want to do something Monday night, that's cool.
Tuesday?
And I hope to still see you all on next Friday.
Oh shoot, is Tuesday Thanksgiving already?
No. Well, first of all, Thanksgiving's on a Thursday, but
the election.
Yes.
Well, Sam, you and I aren't going into work because we don't work directly in political activism.
That was very insensitive to me. I'm sorry, that was probably very insensitive of me. I'm sure Flavy is going to be chained somewhere on election day.
It's all good.
Doing like last minute. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to not. That's not what I meant. But anyway.
Well, it's good that we figured that out, because I would have been missing, and they would have been like, "Where is Flav? It's the most important day of the year." I was told it was a holiday. What are you talking about?
I was told everything was closed today.
God, Emily, thank you for resolving that really quickly so that Flav didn't get fired.
It's Thanksgiving, guys. What are you doing?
Yeah, it's Thanksgiving. I like that election day is actually now a holiday that I can take off work. It hadn't been like that for like a long time, but.
Well, we were basically told to put that it was a